Life insurance. What's your excuse for putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think your work coverage is enough? There's a lot of excuses for putting off life insurance, but one big reason why you shouldn't. If the unexpected were to happen to you, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' tuition, and all the other bills? In a time of grief, the last thing you would want is for your family to have to sell the house and struggle to survive financially. At Ethos, we could get you covered in just 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Rates can increase the longer you wait, so no more excuses. Take 10 minutes today and discover the modern way to get the life insurance coverage you need. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethoslife.com/audio. That's ethoslife.com/audio.
Get the home field advantage every time with Fairfield by Marriott, official hotel partner of the NCAA. Whether you're a student athlete working toward your championship dreams or your team's biggest fan, Fairfield by Marriott has everything you need to get ready for game day. From comfortable guest rooms to complimentary hot breakfast, Fairfield is part of the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio of hotels and official hotel partner of the NCAA. Visit fairfield.marriott.com to book your next game day stay.
The U.S. Border Patrol has exciting and rewarding career opportunities with the nation's largest law enforcement organization. Earn great pay with outstanding federal benefits and up to $20,000 in recruitment incentives. Learn more online at cbp.gov/career/USBP.
Welcome into The Verge, a show which covers the Baltimore Orioles minor leagues. The Verge is part of BSL Radio. Baltimore Sports and Life is dedicated to analysis and discussion on the Orioles, Baltimore Ravens, and the University of Maryland. The site has a team of writers providing coverage of those teams and houses live streaming content weekly. Join the conversations at the message board, like BSL on Facebook, and follow BSL on Twitter.
Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we feel like having options like video podcasts and Q&A lets us be more creative on another level. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
Welcome to On the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. On the Verge is part of Baltimore Sports and Life Radio. And tonight we come to you with episode number 99. And on this episode, we'll break down the hitters and pitchers of the month for April 2022 in the Orioles farm system, talk about the latest promotions that happened, including Kyle Bradish to the major leagues, highlight our players outside of our top 30 prospect rankings at the end of the show. But first, we're joined by a special guest as left-handed pitcher Drew Rom, currently the AA Bowie Bay Sox, is on tonight's episode. Drew, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to it.
Our pleasure to have you here. And let's just start off. You're 4 starts into the season now, coming off of a pretty solid April. How would you assess your performance so far in 2022?
I mean, honestly, it's not the start that I wanted to get off to, but, I mean, it is April, so we're just taking every hit that comes to it. So, I mean, I just hope that next month is going to be a better month, and we just keep building on top of some of the little successes I had last month.
One thing that we've enjoyed highlighting, just looking at some of your numbers here over the last couple of seasons, at each level that you've been promoted to, the command has improved at each level. What have you done to make that a big part of your development over the last couple of years?
Honestly, just fine-tuning a bunch of my mechanics and just kind of, I guess, making those better and more consistent. Because back when I was drafted, like, everything was very inconsistent, just kind of the tall and ball type thing. And now it's actually like we're actually sitting in my legs a little bit more. We're trying to fine-tuning those type of little details and then just making sure everything comes out of the same slot. So
there's a lot of pitching talent in his organization, as I'm sure you know, but which teammates do you turn to often for advice?
I mean, honestly, like, I'll still call up Grayson or someone like that, or like even I mean, honestly, anyone here, especially in AA, like they know their stuff. Like they're not gonna just be here just because they're here, but they're also because they're a great baseball mind. So honestly, anyone around us is probably a good person to go to just because they're all good in their own way. And honestly, a little bit of information from everyone always helps. So
Nice. Is there? I like asking our guests, players that we get on the show, this question, especially the pitchers, because you guys have the best answers here. So, if you had to, if the roles were reversed and you had to step in the batter's box, which of your teammates is the last guy you want to see out there on the mound?
Shoot, I don't know. Honestly, are we talking like AA or just like in general?
Anybody you've played with up to this point.
I mean, honestly, just because he's a lefty, I'd probably say DL would be the most uncomfortable for me. And then also, I think Nolan Hoffman would be really uncomfortable just because of his arm slot and how it plays against lefties and righties. But I think Hoffman and DL would probably be most difficult.
How fun was that 2019 season in Delmarva with you and Grayson and a great pitching staff altogether? Vespi, Justin Ramsey just got his start in the organization, I believe. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a special team for sure, and I kind of got blessed my first year with all that. I mean, especially having Ramsey his first year being in there and bringing like what he knows to the table every time. I mean, he's obviously done a great job with all the pitchers that he's worked with, but ultimately just having those guys kind of around me and then just also just being able to come up through the system with them, just learning through them and learning with them throughout this whole process. I mean, I think that was a really special team, both just camaraderie-wise and talent-wise.
You've had the opportunity starting in Delmarva and since then to play under Kyle Moore a few times. You're back together now in Bowie. What is he like as a manager, and how has he helped you in your development?
I'd definitely say he's more of like a player coach. Like he definitely understands his role and understands like what the day in, day out of what we are going through, what we're feeling, like kind of how everyone is throughout the day. And just overall, like the season, like he's got a bunch of feel in terms of like making sure we're still on top of everything and making sure that we still get the intended rest and that we're not just beating ourselves into the ground. But like overall, he's just one of the best dudes you could ever ask to play under because, I mean, he just understands the game and he understands kind of what you're going through because he's been there before.
Whenever people within the industry discuss the Orioles minor league system, it's full of high praise for the growth and big-time bats, which obviously is fair that we have a loaded system of offensive players, but there always seems to be beyond Grayson and DL, they lack pitching depth, which we would disagree with. What would you say to those critics?
I mean, I disagree with it. I mean, just because we're not the big names like Grayson and DL, we don't all throw 100 like they do, and we don't all have those type of tools. I mean, we're all good in our own way, and I mean, overall, I think we've shown that to be the truth for like based on every one of our stats and all of our outings and everything. I mean, we're not the big time prospects, but we are going to go out there and compete and give it our all every time. And most of the time we've found success just doing what we do. So, I mean, I think people are just kind of overlooking us and it kind of comes with a chip on our shoulder. And I think we take that with a little bit of fire and we love it.
I feel like it even trickles up to Kyle Bradish, who, you know, we've talked about him up for a while now. Makes his major league debut, looks good, and you don't really hear much about it. But he's in the majors now, and he's here.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably one of the guys that I was surprised people weren't really mentioning because I mean, you knew he was going to be a big leaguer as soon as we saw him, and kind of he has all the tools ready for it. And he was closer than I guess Grayson was at that point, and I think Grayson's probably right behind him. But I just think there's a lot of dudes here that are just not, I guess, written about or even talked about as much as they should be.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear players talk about that. Like, I feel like Grayson, at least publicly, you know, he says he doesn't pay attention to prospect rankings and all that chatter. He just goes out and does his job. But for like yourself and maybe some of your teammates, are you guys reading a lot of that stuff or talking about that in the clubhouse or at the apartment at nighttime?
I know probably not in the clubhouse. No one really is. Just kind of like that's not really like a thing you should be talking about. But like, yeah, behind closed doors, I'm sure people talk and like look at all that stuff because I mean I know I do, and I know if I'm not ranked where I think I should be or something like that, it lights a little fire under you, and like wants you to make them kind of believe in you and like kind of believe in what you want to do and kind of how you are and kind of be that pitcher that you think you can be and just show everyone what you can be.
Spoiler alert: we're gonna do a bonus Patreon podcast after this to update our top 50, and you moved up 2 spots. So we're paying attention.
Going back to last year when you were in Aberdeen, there's a play where that will always stick with me. You put out the soccer skill set there. You kicked the ground ball up from behind you, deflected it right to second base, started a beautiful double play. And it looked like you had done it like 1,000 times. This wasn't just by accident. You purposely did this. Was there ever thought about going pro or going to the next level with soccer? Like, was there ever an opportunity that we would be talking right now with Drew Rom, future Team USA soccer star, instead of Drew Rom, up-and-coming Orioles prospect pitcher?
I mean, I don't know about Team USA, but like definitely probably at least a collegiate player. Because I mean, I had some offers, but I just didn't really see much of a future for soccer for me, at least. Just because I mean, if you're not in Europe, you're not really doing much with soccer, and you're not really getting paid all that much. So I saw kind of a better opportunity in the States, at least for baseball. But I mean, I did know a couple of guys that have played on the national team and kind of have had a lot of success, like nationally and internationally with it. But I think overall baseball is probably the better option for me.
Did you ever hold one sport in higher regard than the other? Like, was it always clear that baseball was your number one, or were they kind of even?
No, I mean, honestly, up until I'd probably say my sophomore year summer, I always thought it was going to be soccer. But then I think I just got a lot more recognition for baseball, just basically being who I was on the mountain rather than who I was on the soccer field. And I think it just kind of took over that point, and I realized that that's probably my future. So I might as well take it full on and just ride with it. So
I know this is a baseball podcast, but who were you on the soccer field?
I mean, I was just a defender. I mean, I was a big bully in the back. I mean, that was my job, was to make kids uncomfortable and just like toss them around, and I mean, just basically not let anyone pass me. But yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy that part of soccer just because you're able to bump shoulders with guys, just getting under their skin really easily. And I mean, honestly, had a lot of fun doing it. So
I don't know how the soccer schedule lines up because I'm here in Virginia, and I guess Virginia is weird in that soccer is a spring sport instead of a fall sport. But did that prevent, like, I know there's some other guys in the organization, like Brendan Hanafy. I live like 5 minutes from his parents, and I know he played every other sport under the sun and really didn't do like the travel baseball or the showcases. Wasn't a full-time pitcher until I think his senior year of high school, which just speaks, I think, to the athleticism that some of you guys possess. But did you do some of those showcases in that circuit or while you were doing soccer as well?
Yeah, so my junior year, I was either on the soccer field or at the baseball field almost, I mean, every day. And a lot of it was, most of the time it was the tournaments for baseball. I'd always be there. But for like kind of midday stuff, I was at the soccer field. So, I mean, I didn't really do any of the circuit until I guess my junior year, because that's kind of when I started playing competitive summer ball. Because before that, it was like your American Legion, your knot hole, whatever you guys want to call it up there. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really get into it until my sophomore year is the first showcase I ever went to. So
one thing that we have noticed about you on the mound is that it seems, at least us outwardly, that it's very difficult to rattle you. You seem very calm and composed at all times and pretty much in control of the game and in control of what you're going to throw, the movement in the game. What's going on internally, though? What are you telling yourself as you work through each at bat?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing going on. But honestly, I mean, it's really just taking one pitch at a time. I don't like to think too much because I think once I start thinking, I start overthinking at that point, and I just kind of lose it at that point. And I think just the less I guess, focus on the pitch like ahead, the better it is, and just kind of let my body do its thing, and then just kind of throwing it. Because I mean, the more I think, the worse I do, and I've just kind of always found that to kind of be, I guess, a pattern throughout. And I just kind of think about what I'm going to throw, not necessarily like how perfect it has to be, but just trying to throw it through the zone and see what happens.
Makes sense to me. At every stop you've made thus far in your pro career, you've been around, 2.5 to 4 years younger than the average age of your peers. Yet your transition between levels has been pretty smooth, and a number show continued improvements along the way. What do you credit to that?
Honestly, just the people I'm around because they make the transition really easy, but also just being kind of the pitcher I can be and not trying to be anyone that I guess someone else wants me to be, and just kind of doing what I do, I guess, to the maximum potential I can be at that point, and just kind of keep going and not really taking like any of my hits in stride, but like rather just overstepping them and overcoming any, I guess, negatives that I found along the way and just kind of keep going along through it.
Something I noticed this year, and maybe I've missed it, and call me out if I have missed this, this sidearm delivery that you pop out every once in a while, is that a new development? And if so, how did that come about?
We started it last year a little bit, but I think this year it's probably a little bit more prominent just because I'm starting to get more comfortable with it. But I think it started back in, 2020 instructs, because I would always do it in the 2019 season, like after I pitched, just to kind of loosen it up because it always felt good to me and just kind of help the elbow loosen up a little bit. But then Chris Holt, during instructs, he asked, hey, have you ever tried that during game? I'm like, I did back in high school a little bit, but they told me not to after my junior year, even though, it was effective and it was working. So then he's like, well, I'm not against it, and I kind of want to see what happens. So we kind of just went with it and tried it out there, tried it out in 2021 spring training, and eventually it just kind of became a staple in kind of my arsenal. Because, if you can throw from two different arm slots, and, the hitter's going to be really confused, especially lefties. But, yeah, honestly, we were just trying to always find different weapons I could attack guys with, and I've heard the Cortez comp pretty frequently now from the Yankees guys, so that's not a bad dude to be compared with. But it's just comfortable to me, and it just seems efficient. So
mustache alone, you can have the Cortez comp.
Yeah, I've heard it way more ever since I've got the mustache, especially last year too.
Do you find, speaking of Chris Holt and some of these other pitching coaches you've worked with, are they pretty open to, if you feel like something's not working or you want to try something in a game or practice, how comfortable are you with going to them and being like, hey, I want to try this out? And how receptive are they to that and letting you go with it?
Very receptive. Honestly, they kind of feel if you think it's going to work, then you might as well just try it out. There's no reason not to. Because, they're not going to say, no. You always have to have a reasoning behind anything you do. If you have a good reasoning behind it, they're not going to say no to it. And most of the time, they'll tell you that stuff before you can even think about it. But honestly, if you think you got something, then they'll say, hey, just make sure you try it out first. Make sure you're comfortable with it. Try it out in a couple of bullpens, maybe even a live at bat here or there. And then they'll try to maybe implement it into a game. Maybe not super full on to begin with, but maybe one or two pitches or something. I know everyone down here is always experimenting and kind of tinkering a little bit and just trying something new. So kind of got to be open to it.
One thing, it seems like, especially in the off season, every time we put out a Drew Rom tweet, someone's got to respond, what's the velo? What's the velo? What's the velo? Do you feel like that focus on velocity takes away from what you can do on the mound? And that term soft tossing lefty gets thrown around so dismissively and just too easily, I feel like. So what's your response to that?
I've heard it, I think, every single time anything Steven tweeted or said about me. But, I'm 22, so I'm not really too worried about it. It's very easy to pick up velo once you're older, once your kind of body is in that peak maturity. We saw Means increase velo when he was, 24, 25? So, I've increased velo, I think, every year I've been in pro ball. So, I'm not super worried about it. If other people want to be worried about it, that's on them. But for me, I'm just going to keep doing what I can do and just kind of be the pitcher I am, not the pitcher they want me to be. And if velo comes, then it comes. If not, then I'm just going to keep getting better at what I do. So,
yeah, having people ride the tortoise in the hair, I think maybe slow and steady might be the way to keep that velocity once you actually get it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to risk anything, so I'm not going to go out there, blow out my arm, and then try to do something. So,
for the record, what is the velo right now?
Honestly, it's a changing thing. Probably about sitting 92, 93 would be my guess. I really don't know, but as a lefty, I'm okay with it, and I'm 22. So, ideally, if I can sit 4 to 5, that's perfect. That's really all I need. And I mean, throwing harder is never gonna be a bad thing. But I mean, I've found success at 89, 90. So I mean, 92, 93 is gonna play. So
Yeah, and I think Means and Zimmerman are pretty much right around there anyway. So I think you're doing all right.
mm-hmm.
When you're between starts, do you look back at your previous outing at all and try to take any, have any takeaways from it? And if so, what do you focus on?
So yeah, we typically look at it like the day after, and it's a lot of like what our like vertical break was, like what we were spinning, like what we went to more often than not, kind of what we liked, what we didn't like, and just kind of seeing, I guess, your difference between that start and then your average on the other starts. So seeing if anything was wrong, seeing if anything was better, seeing like if you can implement anything, maybe a little bit more, like throw a little bit more change ups or throw a breaking ball a little bit more often in some counts. But I mean, yeah, we don't really read too much into it except for like the kind of just some of the data stuff. So, I mean, it is good to look back, but I mean, honestly, it's just all eyes ahead.
So you were part of the drafted under the last front office regime, and you were in early on the current front office regime and have kind of seen that process evolve a little bit. So just how different are things now than they were in 2018 or even 2019?
Super different, honestly. Like the technology that we have access to is above and beyond anything I think we could have seen coming in 2019, and kind of what we have is kind of what the top guys in the like the game have. So I mean, everyone came from the Astros. We have what the Astros have. So I think we're in a very good spot at this point with all the technology and all the data we have and that we can have and how we use it. And I think that we've seen that every year. We just continue to keep getting better and better at either using or implementing the data and just trying to make our stuff and ourselves just better.
All right, now I'm going to try something we haven't tried before, kind of like a word association. I'm going to name a player on your team and hit us with like a quick scouting report. Just
All right.
About 6 to 8 guys here. How about start with Zach Peak, friend of the show, was on the podcast in the offseason.
Absolute banger. I mean, his curveball is absurd, but I mean, he's a little bit of a hothead, but it works for him, and we kind of like it too. We just kind of have to work on some stuff. But, I mean, overall, he's a great dude. He does let his temper get a little bit out there, but that's kind of the person he is. He's just very up-tempo and always there. But, yeah, I mean, he's a good dude, and he does what he does very well.
How about what you've seen from newest Oriole acquisition, Antonio Velez, so far?
Honestly, he's a great dude. Like, I mean, I don't think we could ask for a better dude to come in the clubhouse. And overall, he's very intellectual about how he goes about his work. And he's also been very open to kind of all the technology and data we have available and kind of any of the advancements that we have. Because I guess Miami or something was kind of a little bit behind. So now he's trying out some stuff that we have here, and I think he's really taking a liking to it. So
another
really
pitcher.
good to hear.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Another pitcher who's going a little under the radar, I think, Garrett Stallings. Could be a soft-tossing righty, I suppose.
Dude, honestly, he's the one guy that I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. He just does what he does very, very well, and he's always getting better every outing. I mean, he's got a mix. Yeah, my bad. But he's got a mix of everything that you can think of, and he uses it and any count. So I think he's going to be one of the guys that we're going to hear a lot about.
All right, Ryan Watson coming out of the gates, like shocking people with the 0.0 ERA. I think his WHIP is like 0.2. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, so he's going to be a dude. I mean, simple as that. Like, he's going to be a dude. If he keeps on his stuff that he's been showing, he's going to be a pretty good dude. I mean, I don't know what his role is going to be, but he's going to be up there somewhere.
All right, reliever added to the 40-man over the offseason, Logan Gillespie. Seems like he throws heat. He's got cool tattoos. What else?
He's my throwing partner, so, I mean, I love the kid, and, I mean, all props to him. I mean, he's a good dude. We work on getting each other better every day, and he's my tossing partner last year, and just some of the stuff that we've gone through and been through over the past, year, I think it's really helped both of us because we're kind of both like to see and get that like immediate feedback from each other. And I think just our toss play has just been very instrumental for both of our developments.
All right, and just 3 position players. Let's start with professional hitter Jordan Westberg. In a slump right now, but no doubt he'll break out of that. What do you think about him?
I mean, he's a big leaguer. I mean, simple as that. Dude's going to be a big leaguer. He's almost kind of like the Derek Jeter of our clubhouse. I mean, he's the captain. Everyone knows it. So, well, I mean, he'll break out of it and he'll be back on where he should be.
How about fellow infielder Gunnar Henderson, 20 years old, walked 21 times already this year, showing a lot of maturity for his age.
I mean, same thing to Westberg, but Westberg's just got, 3 years on him? So, I mean, I think he's just basically in the same boat as Westberg. He's going to be a big leaguer, and there's nothing he can really do about it. So, he's going to be there.
And last one, Maverick Hanley. I mean, the bat isn't there yet, but it's got to be nice to throw that at guy.
Nah, he's super intellectual. Like, anything that you can think of, he'll know. And he just picks apart hitters just step by step, and he just does it so fluently. But I mean, I think his bat's there. It's just I think he's kind of getting unlucky, and I don't think he's had enough reps. I think he would say so himself to, I guess, really get back in that groove. And I think he's just kind of in his head a little bit. But I mean, knowing him, he's going to be back hitting pretty well here soon. So.
Love it. Good insights there, especially about Velez, the new guy that we didn't really know too much about there. But I had a question about kind of the off-the-field stuff. I know the Orioles have gotten a lot of praise over the last couple of months since the season started about the housing situation and everything going on. I even heard something interesting on Delmarva broadcast, watching one of their games. They said that I guess they have an apartment complex and the Orioles got them like a golf swing simulator set up that the guys can play with. Did you guys get any fun stuff over there in Bowie?
Yeah, so these apartments are super new and they're super nice and everything. We don't have the golf simulator, but I mean, we have like a really nice pool, good weight room, and it's just kind of like in a really good, kind of town center because everything we can think of is literally within, I don't know, probably about 0.3 miles, and we can walk anywhere and everywhere. But I know like Westbury and Gunner and all them, they have like a golf simulator and like a movie theater in there. So I know a lot of guys are getting hooked up, and I know they're just all state of the art, and everyone's really happy with it.
It's good to hear. And we're going to go to a couple of listener questions here from Vivek. He wants to go back to when you were first drafted by the Orioles. How close were you to following through and going to pitch at University of Michigan rather than going professional at that point?
Honestly, me and Backus were really close to head coach up at Michigan right now, and we still are. We still text almost probably 2 or 3 times a year, and I keep wanting to go up there. I just haven't found the time, but I'm going to go up there next year and hang out with them for a little bit. And I think honestly it was probably about 50-50 depending on where I fell. But I talked to him, and he was completely understanding about it, and it was just kind of like the right decision. It was the money I wanted. It was the round I wanted and everything. So I think ultimately it was kind of a no-brainer. But, he said he's going to be the biggest Drew Rom fan, even if I'm not a Michigan man. But I think everything has kind of worked out for the best. So
I completely agree. And another question from Vivek, which is what would you say that you need to work on to take the next step to develop as a major league starter?
Just kind of consistency, kind of finding that breaking ball consistently, because that's kind of what I've been struggling with for this first month, because I've been mainly fastball. But it's still working somehow. I don't understand it, but it's working. But just finding that consistency that I had last year with everything, and I think if I do what I did last year, I think I could probably take the next step here. So we'll see.
Is it harder to pitch during these early months where it's a little chilly? Is it harder to get a feel for the breaking stuff?
A little bit, but also just it's kind of still early. Back in Kentucky, I was used to throwing the first 3 or 4 weeks in 30, 40-degree weather.
That's fair.
So it's really nothing new to me for that one. But yeah, here is probably a little bit harder to find the breaking ball, especially when you're, have to go out and face these top dudes that are going to be big leaguers here soon. So, yeah, yes and no.
Well, Drew, we really appreciate you taking our questions tonight. And looking forward to really seeing what you and this talented group at Bowie do the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be special. I mean, I think we got a lot in store for y'all, and hopefully we keep entertaining.
Well, and I trust your assessment because you've now pitched on two really good teams in this Orioles farm system, the 2019 Shorebirds and last year's Bay Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been blessed, honestly, with both teams. But, I mean, also, like, that Aberdeen team that I started off last year ended up basically being the Bay Sox. So, I mean, just overall, just been with a bunch of really talented guys and just a lot of good teammates, too, honestly.
Yeah, can't wait for a year or two from now when half the team or more is all these guys coming up right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be special next couple of years because we're going to make decisions really hard in the front office here soon, so.
Love it. Let's see it happen. You are, I believe you're Rule 5 eligible next year, so we might be talking to a Drew Rom 40-man roster member in the next couple of months.
I'm hoping, so we'll see.
Of course. That's definitely going to happen. That's a lock. Yeah, so Drew, if you want to hang out with us while we go through the rest of our show, feel free. If you want to hop off at any time, you can do that too. So,
all right, I'll probably hang out for another 10 minutes. I got nothing to do.
Sounds good.
Well, you'll get to be on while we shout out the newest members of our Patreon community. We like to do that each week here on The Verge when we've got new members coming in. I know we have a few that have signed up since our show last week. And Bob, I'll turn it over to you to shout them out.
Yeah, had quite a few sign up. And I also want to announce a contest, a giveaway, if we can reach 100 patrons by next week's 100th episode. I think we're sitting at 96 right now, so it should be possible. Alec Fields, welcome to the club. Matt Malkus, Brian Hollingsworth, Tyler Mays, Nick Carter, Jeremy Dan, Adam Jowden, Charles Robertson, Alex Tuckus, Park Sterling, Adam Meese, and Tommy Kyle. Welcome. That's a big group added to the patrons, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we've tweeted out details, I believe, about the Patreon contest, that if we do get to 100, what is up for grabs there? Yeah,
whether we cross 100 barely or we have 110 this time next week, no matter if we get to 100 period, I won a Twitter giveaway contest of signed baseballs from Bobby Witt Jr. and Julio Rodriguez somehow. So I'm going to pay that forward, and I'll pick a winner live on air with a random name generator, and you can pick which one you want, and I'll send it out to you. So it should be pretty appealing. Two of the best prospects in baseball already in the major leagues. Let's go.
Yep, definitely keep an eye on that if we can get to 100 patrons. And we'll actually turn our attention to the major leagues now because Kyle Bradish made his debut for the Orioles on Friday night going up against the Boston Red Sox. If you've been listening to this show and you've been following the Orioles minor leagues for the last 2 seasons or so, Bradish has been one of the more anticipated names to make that jump from AAA to the major leagues. He did very well at Norfolk to start off, and it was really a tune-up out of spring training to get to the major leagues. In his first start, he ended up going 6 innings, allowing 3 runs, 2 earned on 5 hits, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. I was there, and I have to say that the stuff looked really good. Fastball looked good. He was commanding his secondaries really well. Gave up the home run early, had a couple of tough luck defensive plays behind him. But I think the fact that he managed to work through 6 innings against what is a slumping but still talented Red Sox lineup was a great sign for him. So, Nick, I want to start with your thoughts here.
I think for me, it was, I don't know about you guys, but we've following all these guys in the system like Drew and everybody else. And I felt like a little emotional. It was like watching like a kid graduate over here. So it was really cool. And then I don't know if you guys saw Kevin Brown's pregame talk when the broadcast started. It felt like this was game 1 of the World Series. It was the prospects are here, they're coming, and we're turning the corner. And the light at the end of the tunnel is bigger. That was really cool. But yeah, it was really awesome to see Bradish make that big league debut. A quality start against the Boston Red Sox at home in front of a hometown crowd. You couldn't really ask for more. I mean, and it was really cool to look at some of the StatCast data and get some numbers on that. Like that slider movement was absurd. It was like 186% above league average in terms of movement. It was like 13 inches of horizontal movement there. The changeup, I know Alex Fast gifted that one changeup that was just like, that's an unhittable changeup, no doubt. And so yeah, I don't think you can really ask for anything more. Like, he is a big leaguer now, and hopefully we never see him back in a Norfolk Tides or Bowie Bay Sox uniform. And yeah, I don't know if I know Drew, you pitched with him a lot, and you've been his teammate for a little bit. I mean, what's it like for the prospects in the system and you guys when you watch a guy like Bradish make his major league debut?
I mean, I'd be lying if like 3 or 4 of our guys weren't just in the clubhouse just watching him just do his thing during the game. But that's our guy, and I think we're going to be doing that a lot here soon. Just watching a lot of our guys that we've come up with make their debuts, and I think we're going to see them excel. And I think now this year and next year we're going to see kind of a lot of differential between the lineups and kind of see a lot of the prospects get their time.
Yeah, for me it was like goosebumps. It was like finally this is what this whole 3 years, 4 years of rebuilding is leading up to. It's finally getting here, and we'll get to see these exciting young guys come up. And I didn't care what the results were. It was just cool to see him up here. He was clearly ready. He was dominating AAA in his 3 starts, just like he dominated AA to start 2021 with his 3 starts before he got promoted there. And the thing for me that I've noticed is his command is much better, at least, compared to where he was at some point last year. Only 1 walk over 6 innings. Only struck out 2, but you could clearly see the stuff was good enough. He's going to get plenty of strikeouts this year. He's touched 96, 97, averaged 94 with the fastball. As you said, all the breaking stuff was just excellent. And, the defense was a little shaky in the beginning of his start, and he didn't let it rattle him. He grooved one to Christian Arroyo, who hit one out for a 2-run homer, but he settled down and was great from there. So it's going to be cool to just see him go out there every 5 days now, and he's just part of the starting rotation in Baltimore.
Yeah. The command really has made strides since last fall, I would say, like maybe the end of last season, late August, early September. You could really start to see him turn a corner of those secondaries. And I think the thing that's impressive about him is that you can almost see the in-game adjustment where he's like, you know what, I'm not going to go for the strikeouts every single at bat. Yeah, I'm going to go with some different off-speed stuff, try to get the ground balls, try to get the weak contact. And I think that allowed him to work deeper into the game.
Yeah, I was kind of scared, looking at that defense behind him and some of the errors. It's I don't know if we're not going to say that publicly, but I'll just say that he doesn't have Joey Ortiz and Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Westberg playing behind him up there in the big leagues right now. But I think I think he's there. I think he's there to stick. It's interesting to look back after that trade was made, and you see like the national guys say like, well, it was a quantity over quality type move for the Orioles. They got 4 relievers here. Bradish can't throw a strike. We had some evaluators on our own podcast who, like, I watched him in California. I won't name his name. I watched him in California. I don't think he's got the stuff. And for him to like prove everybody wrong here, like, I don't want to jump the gun here. Obviously, just 1 start, but he went up and he excelled in that 1 start. And I think that's huge. And I think hopefully that calms a lot of nerves of like Orioles fans. You can say, look, here's a guy that the Orioles have developed, and look what he's doing right now as soon as he comes up. So hopefully that helps fans calm down just a little bit.
Yeah, this is a team that, the record is what the record is for the major league team right now. But outside of 2 games, they've been competitive in every single game. And this is without the guys coming up like the Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez will be up soon. Adley Rutschman's a couple weeks away. It's just going to get better and better, and it's just a testament to the player development as we see this continue to happen. And it should give fans confidence, I think, by the end of the season that finally they'll admit Elias knows what he's doing. We have a great group of players in this system, and they will make an impact very shortly.
Yeah. Could you ask Drew this? Maybe some Kyle Bradish, like, who is he as a guy, as a person, the guy off the mound?
He's actually just like a really down-to-earth guy. Like, he's not going to big league anyone. He enjoys talking to people. He enjoys kind of just the casual conversation. But when it's time to get on the mound, he's a competitor. He's going to go out there and just try to just bust down doors. So, you really can't ask for anything better out of a starter.
He honestly reminds me of Zach Greinke when he's on the mound. Just his movements and mannerisms. Let's hope he can have a career like that for the Orioles.
That would be great. And I'm going to go lower in the system now to a debut that I think all of us were really surprised to see this early, but it was a very pleasant surprise. And that was Creed Willems getting the jump to Delmarva. Augusta runners learned quickly to not run on him. It took them a little bit too long to learn that lesson. He threw out 2 runners in his first game. And Drew, I saw you smile there when I mentioned Creed, and we've heard a lot of praise about him just in the last couple of months. So have you had the chance to work with him yet, and what is he like?
Honestly, he's kind of everything you expect by looking at him. I mean, he's just a stupid, strong guy, but like he's also just a goofy character. But I mean, same thing with Bradish. When it's time to play the game, he's very serious. He's very about him, like kind of his work and everything, and he takes it very seriously when he's actually working on himself. But I mean, honestly, he's one of the best guys I've met so far, and he's got a lot of maturity for his age.
Yeah, that's what I jotted down here is that I made the note of. Like, I'm not looking at the batting stat. I think he got a hit. He just missed a home run, I think, in his first or second game. Not even looking at the batting stats of those first 4 games, but just watching those games, him work behind the plate in each of those games, it's like that's not an 18-year-old kid making his full season debut at all. It was very – I know there's a lot of talk. Adley was down and gave a lot of hype to Creed. And I know we heard some stories from inside the Patreon group about that relationship that the two of them have, which is awesome. And you saw a lot of like that Adley in Creed in those outings. It was pumping up the pitcher, very animated behind the plate, but just he was in control, it looked like, on that game. And yet you look at some of the guys who threw, like Ryan Long, Shane Davis, Juan De Los Santos. They had, I think, their best outings of their young season so far, all with Creed behind the plate. I mean, so he had small sample sizes, but those guys excelled with him back there, and that was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, I think he was a perfect 3 for 3, throwing guys out. Like this is going to be a dude to watch as he matures.
Yeah,
go ahead. But as young as he is, I mean, he's very smart. I mean, he's kind of a very young kind of Mav and kind of Cody Roberts, because I've had the pleasure of throwing to them for a while. But I mean, he knows the game inside and out. Like he's heads and shoulders above kind of his competition down there in terms of his intellect and just being a catcher. Like he knows the game very well.
Yeah, I think the Orioles have done a great job of, getting a lot of catching talent in the system. Obviously Adley, but Maverick Hanley's a genius behind the dish. Creed Willems, Samuel Basayo coming up. These young guys look like they have some potential. But we talked about when the Orioles drafted Creed Willems, they don't select high schoolers that often, but when they do, it seems like they're done their homework and they're incredibly confident in who they're taking, and gave him an overslap bonus. And I think this is another step that just shows how confident they are in this, that they're willing to get him up to full season ball before the end of the first month is even over for the season. I thought this was a guy who would show up in the FCL, play a month or two there, maybe get his feet wet in Delmarva at the end of the season, but he's already there and he's showing off his skills. So who knows what he could do. Get these guys in there and let them do their thing.
But something I'm wondering if it's affecting some of the other guys on that Delmarva roster, because there's a lot of 18, 19-year-old kids, a lot of young international players who are playing stateside for the first time, or at least full season ball for the first time. They don't have that short season anymore. And so I wonder if we're going to see the impact of that over the next couple of years. And I don't know, if Drew, speaking from your experience, did you find a lot of value in going from that short season ball before getting to low A, or what was your experience with that?
I was never able to play short season because I was in the GCL the whole time. Okay. But honestly, I could see the differences in some of the guys who went to short season and went to low A, because they were kind of more expectant of what the season is kind of about, rather than me and Grayson, because it was kind of more like a shell shock, kind of halfway through. We're like, dang, we still got about 70 more games. It's been a long season, but now it's just kind of every other day. So I just think a lot of it's just about maturity and growing up at that point. And I think that's what short season was able to do for a lot of guys.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Or just that jump too, since if you hop off soon before you leave, you were the high school guy. So that jump from high school to pro ball, how big of a shock was that to your system? Because we heard stories like Patrick Dorian and his story with that. What was that like for you?
Honestly, when I was in pro ball, I got drafted on the 5th of June or whatever, and I was still playing high school until mid-June. So, I was playing baseball with high schoolers up until pro ball. And then when I got down there, honestly, it really wasn't as much of a shock as I thought it was going to be. or as most people thought it was going to be. Because, I mean, it's still basically a bunch of guys that are about your age, and, like, they're still young and very raw and kind of don't have the maturity, like, in the batter's box for the most part to, I guess, have that much of a difference. But definitely low A and high A, it was kind of more of an eye-opener. And then definitely in double A, you're starting to see guys who may have had some big league time or are about to make their debuts or something and kind of see the skill and maturity difference kind of both in their approaches and honestly their swings and their just talent-wise. So,
yeah, I'd have to imagine that is a big jump going from – we've heard low A to high A is a difficult jump for some, but what did you find to be the most difficult so far?
High A to double A for sure, because I think that's where a lot of the maturity for their approaches was, because they weren't going to go chase the breaking ball in the dirt. It had to be basically you're throwing your breaking ball through the zone and you're going to have to make it break out, but like you just can't throw that thing in the dirt and expect to swing. It has to be through the zone.
Love it. Yeah, I just think, I know that Delmarva team can be kind of rough to watch some nights. And we see a lot of the comments, people commenting like on our tweets and stuff and other discussion taking place. And I just think, with Creed being back there behind the plate now in Delmarva, that's going to hopefully help a lot of those pitchers on the mound, speaking from experience there about his intellect and how mature he is for his age. So I think things will start turning around for that Delmarva roster pretty soon. There's some dudes on that roster.
Yeah, plus, I mean, you got to think they're only still, 18, 19, and this is their first taste of pro ball. And, I mean, they're facing dudes that are, 21, 22. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a little bit of skill difference. But I think a lot of those dudes just seeing them in spring training, I think they're going to adapt very quickly.
Yeah, and going up against that older, tougher competition, it's only going to help their development. I feel like you gotta play up to the level of competition or not. But and I think guys will come in as reinforcements, kind of Trenton Craig, I feel like is getting close to ready. Heston Kjerstad, whenever he's ready to go, he'll probably start there. I think they'll get better as the season goes on. And it's just a different team right now compared to the other three full season ball clubs, which are all super competitive.
You throwing out names there. We're kind of bouncing around all over the place here, but speaking of those names, can we get Anthony Servideo back? I want to watch him play again as well. But I imagine he would start in Delmarva for a little bit. But yeah, hopefully we get more of these injured guys returning. We've seen a few already, so hopefully there's more in the near future.
Yeah, definitely hoping for better health from some of these players. And we'll transition now to something that is new to the show and is going to be new to BaltimoreSportsAndLife.com this year, which is our Players of the Month for each of the minor league affiliates. Bob, Nick, and I went back and forth about this over the weekend, and we settled on one pitcher and one hitter each month from each of the Orioles affiliates will be crowned when we get into the short season months. We'll start working them into the mix. But for now, we're just focusing on the 4 full season levels. And we'll start off with AAA Norfolk. To give a quick background on how the voting works, we each list 3 names. Whoever gets first gets the most points, second the second most, third gets a point. And then we tally that result up into the overall winner. And at Norfolk, we ended with Robert Newstrom as our hitter of the month and a tie for pitcher of the month between Grayson Rodriguez and Nick Vespi. This is a pretty crowded field and one that we saw a lot of twists and turns. I suspect the vote might have looked a little bit different if it had happened 2 weeks ago, but that's why you wait out the whole month. So we'll just start with this group here. Rodriguez and Vespi tie, Robert Newstrom alone as the hitter of the month. Nick, what are your thoughts?
I think that Norfolk roster is kind of cooled off a little bit. Just a cold stretch right now, but he's got 10 hits over his last 6 games. That batting average is up 70 points over the last week and a half. He's getting on base 36% clip. I mean, he's staying hot. And you got guys like DJ Stewart and Ryan McKenna coming back down to Norfolk. Newstrom's, it seems like he's saying nobody's taking my spot in that lineup right now. And it's really great to see. And I mean, Rodriguez, what else would you say about Rodriguez? He had a couple, rough patches there, and that's nothing. I think it's going to bounce back from that pretty easily. It's Grayson Rodriguez. He's the top pitching prospect in all of baseball. But for me, it was Nick Vespi. I had Nick Vespi number 1. I don't think there's anything more he needs to do. Put this guy in the big leagues. 19? I got wrong numbers there. But he missed a lot of time last year in AA, and then it seemed like they promoted him to AAA almost right after he got off the injured list. And so, yeah, the numbers were kind of, iffy. I get that. I saw comments about that already. But, I think 2022, his performance, that's a true representation of who Nick Vespi is. And like, let's see this guy in the big leagues, see if he can make it or not, because he's ready.
Yeah, Vespi's absolutely ready. I'm glad he got one of the nods here because he hasn't let up a run. He struck out like 13 or 15 over 9 1/3 innings. He's just nasty. After the Arizona Fall League, I feel like the Orioles got lucky that the Rule 5 drafts got canceled because he probably would have been scooped up by another team and been lights out in someone's bullpen at the major leagues right now. So, yeah, can't wait to see him come up. Grayson, yeah, like we've talked about, the defense has made him had to get a couple extra outs than maybe you would have normally liked to see, but he'll be fine. The stuff still looks electric as ever. And I love what Newstrom's doing. I mean, he got off to a bit of a slow start that first week or two, but he's been on fire lately, and I still can't wait to see him come up and hit the warehouse. I feel like he is a guy that has the power to do that. He's going to have many balls on Utah Street, a lot of plaques out there. And, yeah, I love the guy. Him and Stowers, they're like battling to see who's going to be the first one up once there's space open in the outfield.
Yeah. How tough are those guys? How tough are those guys to pitch to, Drew?
No, they're both super tough. I mean, they're almost one of the same because, I mean, when you see them in like spring training or something, like everyone's wearing the same clothes, same batting out and everything. And honestly, you really can't tell them apart because, I mean, really all you can see is the face, and even then it's still pretty similar. So it's like, I mean, you're almost pitching to the same guy. But, yeah, it's kind of scary because if you leave one, like they're going to take about 600 feet. So.
Yeah, we saw Newstrom literally do that was that Colorado? Or not Colorado. Connecticut. Yeah, Hartford.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them have hit home runs, probably from a year ago or maybe even a little bit less that still haven't come down. So I agree, they're very similar, and both have to be scary in the box. We'll go to AA Bowie now, and another competitive vote, but in the end, the winners are Hudson Haskin for Hitter of the Month and Ryan Watson for Pitcher of the Month. Two pretty strong starts there. So, Drew, these are your teammates. What is your thoughts on this?
I mean, honestly, Haskin deserves it. I mean, he just went off on the first, 2-3 weeks of the season, and just, he literally could not be stopped. I mean, that injury calmed down a little bit, but, I mean, he was just hitting everything he could see. I mean, the ball must look like a beach ball to him because, I mean, he was just hitting and getting a hit every single time. But, I mean, with Watson, yeah, I mean, I think most of us knowing him probably expected it. And I think it was kind of more or less like his position to lose it because, I mean, he's got the stuff to be that guy, but it's whether he kind of has confidence in himself and confidence in his pitches to be able to do that. And, I mean, we saw what he could do with all that, so.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, Drew. I had you at first place, no doubt. So, no, I'm sure you'll be up there for me, no doubt about it. For me, Haskin, I was at the game where he hit 3 home runs, so that was enough to clinch it for me. He was just unbelievable. He was on deck to get a shot at his 4th home run, too, when that game ended. That would have been incredible to see. And Watson, how could you deny? I mean, he gave up, 2 base runners in his 15 or so innings. So this was an easy vote. Bowie, they had it locked down on who was going to win these awards.
Yeah, I think his first 9 innings were perfect innings. No walks, no hits, no base runners. Pretty ecstatic there to watch Watson. And then, Haskin, he has a WRC plus of 201. I mean, league average 100. So, I mean, that's all you need to see right there. And that's even with a couple of, meh games after coming back from the injury, like Drew said. So, I mean, that's how hot this guy was at the beginning of the year. And I'm going to stick with it. I think it was a Patreon show we did, one of Brandon's surveys, where you're talking about looking at a group of outfielders, right? And I said, don't sleep on Hudson Haskin. I know that first year he didn't light the world on fire, but I mean, the Orioles used a 2nd-round draft pick on him. He had a lot of hype coming into the year, and he's showing exactly why the Orioles grabbed him as high as they did.
Go down to Aberdeen, and this is close calls on both sides. We know the Iron Birds have a lot of good hitters. You could have probably drawn these up 3 or 4 different ways and still had the right answer, or still, had a really good answer. But Cesar Prieto picked up all 3 first-place votes for Hitter of the Month, beating out John Rhodes, who finished in 2nd. And Justin Armbruster was our Pitcher of the Month. And there have been some really interesting developments down in Aberdeen with their pitching staff. It was something we thought might happen at the start of this year, But you look at guys like Jensen Elliott, Noah Denoyer, Peter Van Loon, all picking up votes. Armbruster in the end wins it, though.
Yeah, not bad for just an org guy, right? Whatever homeboy called him in his notes after watching one start in the best. Yeah. 18 strikeouts, 3 walks for Armbruster. He's starting all 4 games so far. Like I love what that kid's got. It's gonna be fun to watch him progress. And Prito, it's just unfortunate that injury happened when it did, because he's lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, the pitching here was so hard because I feel like Aberdeen has just a bunch of guys that are tandem starters with each other right now, pitching like 4 innings at a spot, and they're all doing pretty well. So this was definitely a tough one for me, but I can't even remember who I put first place, honestly. But Armbruster is a deserving guy. He looks like he's pitching really well. And Prieto, it was close for me between him and John Rhodes, but just 7 home runs, 3 doubles. The way he bounced back from not walking his first 2 weeks to walking 5 times in his 3rd week, and just seemed like he was right on the precipice of joining Drew and Bowie this week or next week. And unfortunately, it's a grade 1 hamstring, so he'll be back sooner rather than later. Nothing too serious, but hopefully he bounces back, and maybe they'll just send him right up to AA once he is ready to come back.
Moving down to Delmarva now, and another situation where you had both players sweep the first place votes. Daryl Hernandez is our hitter of the month. Juan De Los Santos is the pitcher of the month. Hitter of the month, a couple of interesting results. Isaac Bellany and Noberth Romero both got strong consideration. Nick had Luis Valdez on his ballot. And then on the pitching, Shane Davis and Moises Chase both got considerable looks, as did Ryan Long. But De Los Santos has gotten off to a phenomenal start. And I can see Nick, he seems to quickly be becoming a On the Verge Twitter highlight favorite.
Yeah, De Los Santos, I don't know what, that is a stocky kid. I mean, he is thick everywhere, and he's just overpowering these guys in low A. It'll be fun to see him progress as the season goes along. There's some really interesting names in Delmarva. I shouted out Ryan Long the other day because I really liked his last outing. Shane Davis, we had Sam Jelinek shouted us out on Twitter, and he said that was his last outing was the best he'd probably ever seen Shane pitch. And as a Chesapeake kid, like, I'm going to root hard for him. That's a local Hampton Roads guy, so he's my guy. But yeah, and Hernandez, as far as the hitters, like Hernandez, I mean, 5 home runs. He hit 6 home runs all of last year. He's already got 5 in 16 games. He's playing like a man on a mission, and we know what that mission is. And I think he's about to unlock a new achievement here. He's got to at this point. Drew was talking about forcing front office decisions here. Hernandez is doing that right now. Yeah,
I mean, we heard from through the grapevine he was not happy to go back to Delmarva. He wanted that boost up to Aberdeen, and who could blame him? I mean, he looked great for his age last year and had a decent spring from what Eric Garfield told us, but he didn't pout. He didn't, let it get to him. He was just like, said, okay, I'll make you do it. And then he is. I would be shocked if he's not in Aberdeen this week, next week, very soon, just killing the ball. Clearly has took his time in Delmarva last year at 19 years old and has used it to just get better, which is what you want to see. So excited for him. And yeah, Juan De Los Santos, what is he, 18, 19 years old? And he looks like Felix Bautista already at that age on the mound. So yeah, exciting. Just, I feel like the international class of pitchers is where you're going to find these just out of nowhere electric arms that you hadn't even heard about until they show up on a mound one day. So very cool to see. And there's the fun of Delmarva. They might not win the games each night, more likely than not, but you're going to see someone that's just like, whoa, you can see the tools, you can see the potential. So good stuff.
Speaking of Batista, have you stood next to Batista, Drew? Like, how monster of a man is he?
I mean, he's just a massive dude. Like, I mean, I've stood next to Judge before, and I think Batista makes Judge look small. I mean, when Batista's sitting in a locker, his shoulders are so broad, he takes up the whole locker.
Talk about a pitcher I don't want to stand in the batter's box against.
Yeah, see, that might be the most uncomfortable at bat, because that's like it's coming from like 7 feet tall or whatever. And I mean, he spins the hell out of it, and that splitter is disgusting. So,
absolutely.
I don't know if he's still got like his height, weight listed there on his MLB profile. I can't pull it fast enough, but is it still 6'5", 190? Like that's
nope.
That's quite a measurement they got on him.
He's probably all of 6'8", 270. But I mean, yeah, no, they need to do a lot of updating with a lot of the heights and weights.
Yeah, he's like a power forward on a Big Ten college basketball team right now.
Yeah, he's
an interesting backstory about heights before we go to our final segment. I was looking up something about Gunnar Henderson the other day, and I wanted to go to his perfect game listing. If you look at his perfect game listing and his MILB listing, he has shrunk an inch since he was drafted. He was 6'3" according to Perfect Game, 6'2" according to MILB.
I don't know about that one.
Clearly, these can be trusted.
I got him at like 6'4". He's a big dude.
Yeah, I didn't think either one was accurate.
I mean, he's a good 2 inches taller than me, so I'm 6'2" on a good day.
We'll go to our final segment now where we like to shout out players who are not in our top 30 list for things they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something kind of fun they did. And I'm going to go to my pick on that, and that's Norberth Romero, who has been hitting the ball really well lately. And he hit a home run in Augusta where I think he carried the bat all the way to first base as he was watching whether or not it was going to stay fair. And that was awesome to watch. I think that should take over bat flips now for celebrations. And then the one that I'm going to go with for pitchers is Carlos Tavera. That's a guy that we kind of zeroed in on at the start of the year as a breakout candidate, and I think his most recent outing at Aberdeen was his best one so far. Picking up his first win, but good strikeout totals. And the thing that I'm encouraged by is that after he walked a lot of batters last summer coming out of the draft over a small sample size, he has that down considerably this year. And I have to feel like he's trending in the right direction. Ended the month of April with 18 strikeouts against 6 walks in 14 to third innings across 4 starts. So I'll go with Tavera this week.
Drew, batters celebrating home runs in any way, flipping, carrying the bat all the way around. How you feel about it?
I mean, just don't leave it there. I mean, that's all I got. I mean, but like, you can't get mad if like we celebrate after we strike you out or something. Like, I mean, if you bat flip against us and we strike you out next time, like, yeah, we're probably going to give you a little something, but just don't be mad about it because you literally just made an ass of yourself running down first base for no reason. So,
yeah, we love case struts too. I think Peak has a good one. Ignacio Feliz is great with that. So,
I can go with mine. I chose Billy Cook as my hitter. That Aberdeen lineup was just literally unstoppable. I don't know if they lost last week. They just it was the rain that got them on Sunday. They had to suspend that game, but. Yeah, Cook hit 385 last week, 2 triples and a home run, drove in 5. Only Kobe Mayo had more home runs because he hit like 3 home runs. More runs driven in because he had like 3 home runs. 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. Cook's interesting because he's got the power. He's got the speed. He's 7 for 7 in stolen base attempts. So power, speed, positional versatility, plays first base. They have him DH in left field, right field. Kind of an under-the-radar name over there in Aberdeen. And my pitcher, I went with Easton Lucas. And good, we got Drew here. You can give us the scouting report on Lucas, but the return of the Jonathan Villar trade, a name I don't think anybody's talking about. He struck out 12, gave up just 1 run in 8 and a third innings. I found an interesting little nugget, actually, on Baseball America. After that trade went down, Baseball America said he was a tentative competitor, and he kind of played down to the competition. I didn't see any of that when I watched him last week. So I don't know if Drew has a first-hand scouting report down Easton.
No, I mean, I understand where the tentative competitor comes out, but like that's just because he's kind of more like a shy dude. He's kind of like to himself. So like he's not going to be kind of like Peak or something like that, which is like the polar opposite. But I mean, like internally, like I mean, he's a competitor. Like that dude competes. He strikes out the world. I mean, his stuff just plays. I think he's got a little slider going this year too, which is super effective for him. But I mean, overall, I mean, he's just a dude, and I think a lot of people are surprised about it. But I think most of us saw it coming. So,
very cool. Yeah, my guys are Isaac Belney for Single A Delmarva. Just he's actually not even part of the Mike Elias international crop of people that have been brought in from since he took over. He's a Dan Duquette guy, a rare international signing by the previous regime, but he looks pretty polished actually for these young guys in Delmarva. He's batting .276 with like an .873 OPS. He's got 3 home runs. He's walking, which not a lot of guys in that lineup are, which is to be expected. They're young. It's something you got to learn over time. So shout out to him. Great start. Maybe he can make his way up to Aberdeen at some point this year. And for my pitcher, I'm going with Tim Naughton. He's another guy with Nick Vespi and Cole Uvila, who hasn't given up a run yet in AAA out of their bullpen. And he's just not getting the credit that those guys are. Maybe he's not the prospect at the major leagues that they are, but hey, he's doing it. And if you do that, you're going to get a shot. We saw it last year. I think pretty much every relief pitcher that pitched for Norfolk was eventually caught up to make a major league appearance. So shout out to him. Any reviews on him, Drew?
I mean, honestly, that dude just competes. I mean, he's good. I mean, he's sneaky good. Like, you're not going to see it first off, but I mean, overall, I mean, his stuff is just electric. I mean, his fastball's just super hoppy, and his slider's just a wipeout. I think he's trying to work on his changeup, but I mean, I think he's come a long way. And I mean, I'm not surprised at how well he's doing. So,
love it. Good deep of arms. Yeah, I'm glad you had Tim Naughton because I was going to put him down. I felt bad about not putting him down, but I watched Lucas's outing that last time, and I had to shout him out. But yeah, everybody talks about Vespi, and we're guilty of that too. Everybody's talking about Vespi and Uvila and their lights out performances this year, but Naughton very quietly 8 scoreless innings with Norfolk.
Yeah, absolutely. And Norfolk bullpen off to a good start. And Drew, we really have appreciated your insight tonight. And as congratulate you are the first player guest to ride out an entire show with us.
I mean, it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. I had fun. It's pretty easy. It's pretty fun. So, I mean, I'm not going to say no.
All right. Well, you heard that other players that will be coming on over the summer. Challenge accepted.
Love it. I know a lot of the listeners will greatly appreciate the insights, especially a lot of your teammates, not just yourself, because it's a lot of these guys coming up, fans are more in tune than ever to the minor leagues and scrutinizing you guys, like I feel like more than ever before. And I don't know if you guys kind of feel that pressure from the fans, but without a lot of excitement at the major league level, fans are excited for the future. And I guess there's good and bad there, but guys are paying attention, and it's really good to learn more about each of these players.
Yeah, I mean, we're just putting on a spotlight now, so I mean, with kind of how the big league team's been struggling, but I mean, I think with everything coming up, I think we're being put on that spotlight, and we're expected to compete and do well at every level. And the one time we don't or something, people are going to be not too happy with us or not too happy with the team or whatever. So I mean, we just take it with a grain of salt and not really pay attention to that. So
just getting you prepared for the spotlight at the major league level in a couple of years.
Exactly.
Do you feel it anymore playing as close to Baltimore as you are now? You're only about maybe 25 miles away or so down in Bowie.
I mean, not really. I mean, we still need a couple more fans in the stands. Really feel it, but I mean, I think hopefully soon we'll see a lot more people kind of at our games because we'll be competing, we'll be winning, and hopefully people will be recognizing the talent we have. So,
might see a few more fans this week with Adley and DL Hall coming up.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we'll be like Grayson was last year. So,
gassed it up.
We will be back next week for our 100th episode. In the meantime, continue to follow us on Twitter at BSL and The Verge, and check out BaltimoreSportsAndLife.com for all of the latest sports coverage, including the Orioles, some excellent NFL draft analysis, as well as coverage of college sports and more. Hop on the message board and join in discussion with fellow readers of the site, as well as contributors. We will be back next week for episode 100. We'll be joined by Mike Elias. So looking forward to rolling out that interview, having our reaction to that, as well as the latest news in the Orioles farm system. Thank you to Drew Rahm tonight for coming on our show. For Drew Rahm, Bob Phelan, and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden you've been listening to On the Verge.
The United States Border Patrol has exciting and rewarding career opportunities with the nation's largest law enforcement organization. Border Patrol agents enjoy great pay, outstanding federal benefits, and up to $20,000 in recruitment incentives. If you are looking for a way to serve something greater than yourself, consider the U.S. Border Patrol. Learn more online at cbp.gov/careers/USBP. That's cbp.gov/careers/USBP.